Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. We're going to dig into something you all flagged as super relevant, customer experience optimization. It's more than just a buzzword. We're looking at this article from the World Consulting Group. It's called The Importance of Customer Experience Optimization, published pretty recently, August 28th.
Yeah, and I think the interesting thing here is how much the customer experience landscape has changed, even just in the last few years. This article really gets that shift. It's good.
It really does. It's not enough anymore to just offer a good product or a good service,
Mm.
right? With so many choices out there, having a really excellent customer experience can really make or break you. This article really, really drove that home for me.
Yeah, it's true. A really good customer experience, it turns those one-time buyers into,
Yeah.
those lifelong fans. And in a world of just endless choices, that's really valuable.
Totally, totally. One thing I thought was interesting from the article was this whole section about personalization and how it's not enough to just like slap someone's name on an email anymore.
Right. Yeah, you have to anticipate their needs. The article used the example of international shoppers. They often have very specific questions about shipping. So imagine if instead of them having to hunt down that information, it was just right there, tailored just for them based on where they are. That's like next level.
Okay, that makes sense. But how do you know where that line is between being helpful and being creepy? Like, how much data is too much when it comes to these personalized experiences?
That's the million-dollar question. And honestly, it's something that I think businesses are constantly struggling with. Transparency is really key, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Customers are more willing to accept personalization if they understand how you're using their data and how it benefits them directly.
So it's about being really upfront about the data you're collecting and giving your customers control over those preferences.
Exactly. Building that trust is so important. Because if a customer feels like you're invading their privacy, even if you have the best intentions, it's going to backfire.
Totally, totally. So speaking of understanding the customer journey, the article also mentioned this idea of journey mapping. And I gotta be honest, that always sounded kind of like a buzzword to me.
Mm?
Is it really that important?
It's way more than a buzzword. It's about connecting all those dots of the customer experience. One thing the article said that I thought was interesting was that younger customers, they often visit physical stores before ever purchasing something online.
Interesting. Yeah, I do that all the time.
Exactly. And it just highlights how important it is to map that whole customer journey across all those different touch points,
Yeah.
right? So you can identify the pain points, like, for example, a really frustrating return process or something. And then you smooth those out so that the whole experience is just better overall.
So it's like preventative customer service. Like you're anticipating the problem before it even happens.
Exactly. And when you do that, when you eliminate those pain points, you reduce what we call churn, those moments when customers get frustrated and they just decide to take their business somewhere else.
And losing a customer isn't just losing one sale, right? It's losing all of their potential future business, and that can really add up.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why understanding the customer journey it's fundamental to this whole thing. It's about playing the long game, building those relationships and showing your customers that you understand them and that you value their business.
Which I guess leads us to the next piece of the puzzle, which is actually understanding what's going on in your customers' minds. The article really emphasized the importance of gathering feedback, both structured and unstructured. What does that even mean?
So structured feedback is like your typical stuff. It's like surveys, polls, those star ratings that you see everywhere, which is fine. Gives you a broad sense of how your customers are feeling.
Hmm.
But unstructured feedback, that's where it gets really interesting. So things like social media comments, online reviews, even, literal conversations that are happening in your call center.
So it's like going beyond those generic survey questions and really digging into like the nuance of what people are saying, but also how they're feeling.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Because unstructured feedback can often reveal these hidden pain points that might not come up in a more formal setting. Like, for example, a customer might leave a comment on a social media post expressing their frustration with a recent interaction. And that's gold.
It's like a direct line to what's really going on, not just what people are telling you because you asked them on a survey.
Exactly. And that kind of information can be super valuable when you're trying to make real improvements to the customer experience. The article also talked about something I thought was really interesting, A/B testing. They used the example of Bloomreach, where they said some customers dramatically increased their conversion rates just from using this one tool.
Yeah, that caught my eye too. But I'm not gonna lie, I don't fully get what A/B testing is. Like, how does it actually work in practice?
So imagine you're doing a science experiment, but instead of test tubes, you have your website or your app. So let's say you want to test out two different headlines for your homepage to see which one makes people click through more,
Mm.
right? You show version A to like half of your visitors and then version B to the other half, and you track which one performs better.
Oh, so you're letting the data tell you what works best, like what your audience actually responds to. You're not just going with your gut.
Yes, exactly. And the cool thing is you can A/B test like anything.
Yeah.
Headlines, images, colors of buttons, email subject lines, even different layouts if you have a mobile app.
Wow. So are there like common mistakes people make when they're setting these things up?
Yeah. I'd say one of the biggest ones is focusing on really small, isolated changes,
Hmm.
like without thinking about the bigger picture. So for example, let's say you're A/B testing where to put a buy now button on your product page, right? You might get more clicks just by moving it a little bit. But what if at the same time you're running this huge marketing campaign and it's driving a totally different kind of customer to your website? It's
Hmm.
going to totally skew the results of your test.
So you got to compare apples to apples. Otherwise, the data is basically useless.
Exactly. It's super powerful, but it's got to be used strategically. And you have to understand your data and know how to actually use it.
That makes a lot of sense. The article also talked about how important customer retention is. Why is it so important to focus on keeping the customers you already have happy? I feel like companies are always so focused on getting new customers that they forget about the ones they've already got.
Yeah, that is a classic mistake. It's so much more cost effective to keep your current customers happy than it is to constantly be trying to find new ones. Plus, when your customers are happy, they're more likely to buy more from you and tell their friends about you and become those like brand advocates that every business is looking for.
Right. It's like that saying, a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. Like, you don't want to lose those loyal customers you work so hard to get in the first place.
Exactly. And creating really good customer experience is how you keep them coming back,
Hmm.
right? Building those long-term relationships that are good for everyone.
So, how do you actually do that? What are some real things that businesses can do to boost customer retention without, you know, spending a fortune?
Well, loyalty programs are really popular, but you got to go beyond just giving points for purchases. Personalization is really key here too. So like imagine instead of sending out those generic discount codes, you surprised your most loyal customers by giving them early access to new products or some kind of exclusive content that's tailored to their interests.
That's a really good idea. It makes them feel like you actually, you value them as a customer, you appreciate their business.
Exactly. It's about showing them that you see them, you get them, and that you actually want them to be happy.
And that kind of like personal touch can make a huge difference, especially these days when it feels like, everyone's just bombarded with choices everywhere they look.
Yeah, you're right. Having a really great customer experience isn't just a nice thing to do anymore. It's like, it's essential, if you want to stay in business.
I totally agree. Speaking of creating seamless experiences, this article also got into omnichannel support. What does that even mean? Like, why is it important for making customers happy?
Okay, so think about all the different ways that you interact with businesses these days. You go to their website, maybe you check out their social media, you send them an email, maybe you call them on the phone. Omnichannel support just means that you're making sure that the entire experience is the same across the board, no matter how the customer chooses to get in touch with you.
So it's about being accessible to the customer on their terms, whether it's social media or email or over the phone.
Yes, exactly. And it's not even enough to just be present on all those channels. They have to actually work together seamlessly. So imagine you start talking to a company, like through Facebook Messenger, right? But then you have to switch over to email to like share some personal information. Good omnichannel support means that transition is easy. The customer doesn't have to repeat their whole story or start over from scratch.
Yeah, it's like when you're watching something and you can just pick up right where you left off. You don't have to like rewind the whole
All
thing.
right, exactly. Customers don't want to have to repeat their whole story every single time they have to switch to a different way of talking to you. It's about respecting their time and making things, easier for them.
Totally. And I bet that takes some like serious organization on the back end. The article mentioned needing a centralized system to manage all this. What does that even look like?
So imagine like one central hub where all the information about your customers and all their interactions are like all in one place. So instead of having it scattered all over the place, their email, social media, whatever customer relationship management software you're using, it's all right there. So your team can see like a complete view of their history and what they like.
Oh, that's smart. So you're not digging through a million emails or asking the same questions over and over again.
Exactly. And that can really change the game if you're trying to create these amazing customer experiences.
Yeah.
It shows that you really care about their experience and that you want to go above and beyond.
Which goes back to what we were talking about before, right? Like building trust and building loyalty.
Exactly. It's not just about being convenient. It's showing that you really, really get your customers and what they need. You're there for them however they want to reach you.
This has been so interesting. We've talked about personalization, journey mapping, A/B testing, omnichannel support. This is a lot. It seems like making your customers happy has so many different parts to it. It's like data and technology, but then, you can't forget about actually treating people well.
Yeah, for sure. And the businesses that really get that it's about all of that. You got to use data to understand your customers. Technology can definitely make things better, but never forget about being human, like actually caring and wanting to make something really great for people.
You can't just go through the motions, right? It has to be genuine.
Yes. At the end of the day, a good customer experience isn't about tricking someone into buying something. It's about building a relationship, and that's good for everyone.
So well said. Thanks for talking to us today about this. Hopefully you learned something about how to wow your customers and keep them coming back for more. We'd love to hear from you. What are your most memorable customer experiences, good or bad? What made them stand out? Head to our social media and tell us all about it.